I'm sorry about that, guys. Okay.
I was wondering what just happened.
I'm sorry, Danny. Okay. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Pedekei, Halacha Vav, and Halacha Zayin, God willing, concluding Pedek Gadish, being Messiah the chapter. We are learning Daf Memches, and we left off on Daf Mem Zayin Amid Beis, 2 lines before the bottom of the Amid by the Gemara. So this Mishnah, Halacha Vav, as we learned yesterday, speaks about 2 different dinim. The first din is the basic shikha, that if the balabas hires a worker to help him in the field, the Mishnah verbalizes the rule, shikha is only shikha if both the balabayis and the worker forgot the sheaf. Meaning, if either of them was aware that there was a sheaf to be picked up, even though one of them forgot, it does not have a din of shikha. Now, what we're going to really, and we spoke out at the end of yesterday's share, that hold on, is the balabas in the field? Is the balabas not in the field? Okay, so let's shelve that question, and we're going to come back to it, but we're going to follow the Seder of the Gemara. The Gemara introduces a Braisa. In the Braisa, we bring a unique opinion, which is of Rabbi Shimon, that disagrees with the Mishnah. This detail that it has to be shikha dafka by both is one of the things in which Rabbi Shimon opines that that's not always necessarily the case. But to make here in our Hagdama a very important synopsis of the Shita of Rabbi Shimon, let me share 3 details that is unique to him. Number 1, if the balabas is in the city, meaning not in the field, according to Rabbi Shimon, even if he forgets, it's irrelevant, as we'll unpackage Rabbi Shimon, from which we'll understand better the Shita of our Mishnah, the Shita of the Chacham. In other words, the owner's shikha or not is only relevant if he is on the field. Another detail. If the balabas, if the owner is in, when I say in, just for clarity, in doesn't have to be on. In can also be near, as we'll explain in a moment. But that's what in means. If the balabas is in the field, and he and the worker forgot, like our Mishnah says, it's shikha. But let me add another component, which is only relevant to Reb Shimon. What happens if there are other people present? Even people, the example he'll give is people are traveling on a caravan and they're driving on a road by the field and they witness the owner and the balabas forgetting one of the sheaves. Is there awareness that there is another bundle to pick up? Is that of significance? According to Rab Shimon, yes, but not always. If the owner and the worker forgot, even if others are aware, it's shikha. But here is the key component. Let Rab Shimon, if it was forgotten by the workers, and there aren't any others who are aware, or others who are passing by for some reason also, they're watching, they're observing, they missed out, they forgot that there is this sheaf. So you have the workers and others forgot. Look how important others are. Let Rab Shimon, even if the owner is aware, it's still shikha. See, this third point is where the Chachamim and Rab Shimon are not aligned. The Chachamim, or our Mishnah, they don't care about others at all. With Rab Shimon, that the others' awareness or lack of awareness is of significance. So it's either or. If both the balabas and the workers forgot, even if others are aware, it's shikha. If the workers forgot and others forgot, chevre, even though the balabas is in the field and the balabas is aware that there is one sheaf, let Rab Shimon, it is shikha. That's huge. Now, l'chachamim, if the owner is in the field, even if the worker forgot and all others forgot, the Chachamim hold no, like we learned in the Mishnah. You have to have the forgetfulness of the owner for it to be shikha. Why? Let me speak it out in the introduction. Now, really, this is a sugya that's discussed in Bava Metzia Babli, Daf Yud Aleph, and not everyone is in agreement that the Yerushalmi and in the Babli are on the same page, but this is the way we will learn the sugya. The reason why L'Chachamim and really L'Rab Shimon, the owners, that's the way we are learning this topic. The owner's forgetfulness or lack of forgetfulness is relevant only when he's in the field. L'Chachamim, what I'm saying, not L'Rab Shimon, is because of the following. Guys, there's a rule that chatzir, your property, acquires on your behalf. Right? And another important, it can be technical, but you have to bear in mind that generally we view a field as a chatzir she'ena mishtameres. What does that mean? A backyard is an area that normally has a proper fence around it, and an item that's in there is protected. Of course, you can always come a ganaf and jump over the fence, but a property that's protected, which does not allow intruders to enter with ease, acquires for the owner. That's the technical rule. A chatzir she'ena mishtameres will only acquire for the balabas if the balabas is on it or near it. That's the on it or near it lit up l'chachamim. So if there is a field and the owner is on it or near it, and there is a bundle that the worker forgot, l'chachamim, that will be the Gemara in Bava Metzia, and we're trying to align it with over here. You know why it's not shikha? Because what were to happen if there would be shikha? What happens when there's shikha? The owner no longer owns it. Right? Now, exactly, is it hefker? No, it's not hefker. The Torah gifts it to the local aniyim. I get that. But if your property acquires on your behalf, then certainly if there is something that you already own, and for some reason you might disown it, your field does not allow it for you to disown it. In other words, if your chatzit acquires for you, how can you lose its balabatishkeit when it's a chatzid and you are there? That's, in other words, we're going to learn l'chachamim at the end of the sugya. The whole topic is about the din that a chatzid, even she'ena mishtameres, acquires for you when you are there, and certainly will not allow for it to become disowned by you. When you are aware of it. So if someone were to enter the field, you would prevent them from doing it. But you, if you have shikha, you forgot the awareness, then it cannot acquire it for you. In other words, the forgetfulness of the balabas, l'chachamim, has everything to do with the dinim of kinyan of a chatzid, she'enim mishtameres, but you're present and you would prevent anyone from getting it because you know that something is there. Okay. The next case in the Mishnah, the second case in the Mishnah was that shikha is only if you pashut forgot it for no external reason. But if the Mishnah gave an example, an ani blocked it, or if an ani, that's the way we're going to learn the Mishnah. If an ani covered it with kash, he covered it with straw, so even though you didn't see it and therefore you forgot it, that's not called forgetting it. So we're going to unpackage that din as well. That will be the end of the sugya of halacha vav, and the final halacha of this perek, halacha zayin, is going to basically speak about one rule, and that is that the din of shikha only applies to sheaves that were forgotten during their final segment of gathering. And as we'll speak out when we learn the Mishnah, there were times that there were many steps in the gathering. So there are many movements, right? You're gathering it from place A to place B, from place B sometimes to place C. There is one, what we will call final gathering movement, which is the only time where if you forgot it, it's shikha. If you didn't forget it there, even if it will undergo a subsequent movement, it doesn't have the din of shikha. If you forgot it not in the final movement, even though you forgot it, it's still not going to be shikha. So we're going to narrow down shikha to one specific movement prior to which, post to which, your forgetfulness will not be relevant. That will be the sugya in which we'll conclude the perek. And now, without any further ado, so again, Chavre, this is so geschmack. That Mishnah says that simple. It sounds simple. You know when shikha is? Both, guys, if there's no worker, then of course shikha only is, did the owner remember to pick it up or did he oversee it? Did he overlook it? That we get. But If there is a balabas and a worker, the Mishnah says simple, shikha is only if they both forgot. And always, if one or the other remembered, then you don't have the din of shikha. Okay, good. Now, in order, like we said, to better appreciate the nuance, l'chachamim, we're going to first contrast it with the Braisa the Gemara will bring. I take that back. First, the Gemara is going to give a source. L'chachamim. Okay, before we come to Rav Shimon. So we quoted already again. There's a pasuk in Parshas Ki Seitzei. The pasuk reads that Ki Siktzoid Kitzircha B'Sodecha, that when you are harvesting your produce, V'Shachachta Oimer Basada. The pasuk explicitly is only speaking about Shikchas Oimer. That means that you bundle it. At some point, you gather the bundles to one great heap. So when you are doing that act of gathering, if you forget a bundle, the Torah says, don't return to pick it up. That's a negative commandment. What's the positive commandment? To leave it. The way the Torah words it is like yosem v'lalmana yihiyah, and then the Torah gives you a bracha. So says the Gemara. What's the source for the Tanakama that shikha needs the forgetfulness of both the owner and the worker? Daf mem zayin amud beis mamash at the end by the beginning of the Gemara. Why? That's even if the balabas is not doing the work, he's sitting there like a boss, watching someone else work for him. Because the Torah says kitzircha, your harvest, guys. The worker doesn't own anything, and right after it says your harvest, it says v'shachachta. Right? In other words, the owner's shikha is relevant. Turning to Daf Mem Ches Amadal. Similarly, also shchachei balabayis, but v'loy shchachei payalim, it's also in a shikha. Why? Because the Torah says ki siktzoy. Who is doing the siktzoy? The worker. Ki siktzoy v'shachachta. Bottom line is, you have to have the forgetfulness of both. Okay, now before we come back to the chachamim. And there's going to be a lot of enlightenment, like we spoke in our introduction, that really, even though there's a pasuk, why is shikha, why is the owner shikha of significance? Really because of the din that chatzere shel adam koinoloi, and even if it's a chatzir, which is she'ena mishtameres, which is a field, if you're there, how can the Torah say it's not yours, you forgot it, when it's in your field? That's why we need to have the forgetfulness of now. If you forgot it, then taka you disown it. That's not Rav Shimon. But before we come back to that, like we spoke out in the intro, there are really three dinim of Rav Shimon. Now the seder that we spoke about is not the seder of the Braisa. But let's go dive inside. Says the Gemara is also this inside that there is a Tana Rav Shimon that disagrees with the Chachamim. And as we spoke out already, and as we'll repeat again, it's not like the Rav Shimon is saying that the shikha of the balabas is not relevant. It's not the only determining factor. He adds another factor. Now it makes it a lot more exciting. And like we said, what's the other factor? Are there other people that are aware? Not the owner, not the worker. The example we'll give is people are driving by today on the highway, and they're watching someone working. They watch how it was forgotten. Does that have any effect? Sometimes, yes. Let's read it inside. Sometimes. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer mishem Rabbi Shimon gaistam. Rabbi Shimon does Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Afilu chamorim shemoivrim baderech. Even donkey drivers that happen to be driving by near the field, them being able to see. There weren't fences. It's not an orchard. It's an open field. And v'ro Omer echad, and they're watching as there is one bundle. Now this is very important. In the case where the balabas did not forget. Now, guys, I know he's not speaking it the way we spoke out the rules, but this scenario already implies, which it does, that even according to Rab Shimon, if both the worker forgot and the balabas forgot, even if chamarim, it just means others. Even if others are aware, it will be shikha. In other words, in the case where they both forgot, the owner is in the field and the worker is in the field, but he's working, and they both forgot, the Rav Shimon will agree to the Chachamim, even though they take into account are other people aware. So the Chiddush won't be in this case. The Chiddush ain't a shikha. Why ain't a shikha? You know why? Because when the balabas did, no, it's if the workers forgot and the balabas forgot, then it will be shikha. Even though chamarim no, but if the worker forgot, the balabas did not forget, l'chachamim guys, it will never be shikha. But Rab Shimon, if the workers forgot and others who were watching also forgot, there's like a ruach of forgetfulness, then even though the balabas was aware, it will be shikha. Wow.
Rabbi, why do Chamirin matter at all? They're just passers-by. They have no ownership. They have no rights.
Doesn't matter. It's a very good point. In other words, you see over here, let me answer your question with a question, Kevin. The workers don't own anything. They don't own anything. Why would we b'chlal care if the workers are aware or not? I mean,
they're
someone... They're agent not to lose my property. They are an agent to do good for me. It's amazing, din. I'm not answering your question. I'm pointing out, Kevan, that we're dealing with a very unusual thing. All of Yiddishkeit, even though we paskin that kavanah in most mitzvahs halachically is not ma'akiv, not always, but we want to have kavanah. Think about this: this mitzvah is fulfilled dafke because you completely forgot. God put into the world, and we have a tradition that that's because of the luchas that were broken. If the luchas were not broken, Torah, Yiddishkeit, you would never forget, because when a Yid is doing a mitzvah, they're connected to God. When you're connected to God, ein shikcha lifnei chisei chavedecha. I want you to know the reason why great tzaddikim did not forget. I'm not talking about the Rebbe, who also physically has a memory. I know people that are average like us, Torah they never forget. That has to do with them being holy people. When it comes to Kedusha, you don't forget. We learned that forgetfulness is connected to Klipa. And here we have a phenomena that this is the ultimate elevation of Klipa. You know, we say, like the same thing. You forgot, this is a mitzvah that you do with forgetfulness. So, okay, in other words, the question is, who needs to forget? The whole world? The worker? That's the topic over here. Now let me repeat what we said before. The giants did all the hard work. Rab Shimon holds 2 points, guys, for this statement to make sense, without spending all the time to point out how there seems to be a lot of problems with the statement. That's like incomplete, but everything is implied. If forgotten by the worker and the owner, he's implying that. Even though it was also forgotten by others, even though it's aware by others, even though others are aware of it, yes, shikha. In other words, Rab Shimon will agree. Where Rab Shimon disagrees with the Chachamim is that if forgotten by workers and owners and others, there were Chamarim that saw it and forgot it, so the worker saw it and forgot it, the others saw it and forgot it, let Rab Shimon only. Even though the balabas did not forget, it's shikha. It's amazing. In other words, Kevin, you're just observing the wow, what does that mean? It's human consciousness, human awareness. People who are aware and forget, it has an effect. I'm holding on to something and I let go of it, even though I'm not the owner, there is some influence. Now, there is another explicit din of Rab Shimon, which we're going to bring back to the Chachamim, and we spoke it out. We mentioned that this is the main topic of Bava Metzia. Where exactly is the balabas? Who speaks about it explicitly? Who is machalik between, are you there or are you in the city? Rab Shimon. Now, what we're learning is also Rab Shimon. Says the Braisa, if the owner is in the city, and the worker owner balabas knows that you have your workers, and that's the way it should be. Every person has strengths and weaknesses. This balabas already knows that his workers, for whatever reason, why he hired them, either because you live in LA and you cannot fire a worker, you pay so much money to fire workers here that you become their workers. Doesn't matter why. He knows. I know my guys today, they're forgetting. it doesn't mean he knows which one they're forgetting. And he says, but I'm not forgetting. I know I counted this morning, there were 50 sheaves. The average of my workers they're going to forget one. I'm not forgetting that one. Even though he said that, and the workers, that goes B'lashon Rabbi. No, it's the owner did not forget. So the din is Einoi Shekha. Really, in other words, if the balabas is in the city, okay, that's one detail I didn't speak out on the intro. That's another Gavaldik din. And I asked you, Kavan, who are the workers? Who are the workers? They're not the owners. Who are they to forget? In other words, if the owner is in the city, even though Rab Shimon says he remembers, I want you to know, if the owner is in the city, he's not present, according to Rab Shimon. Even if the owner forgets, the workers' forgetfulness cannot take effect. That's really what we're learning. I'm happy we got that. The Rab Shimon, Rab Shimon holds, based on the question that I pointed out to Kavan, you can argue who are the workers? They don't own it.
Right.
Eloma, they're working. So what? But when it comes to shlichus, we say that letikun shalachticha and not to avisia. I sent you to do good, not to do bad. Rab Shimon holds that if the balabas is in the city, even though here he says that he did not forget, even if he forgot, the workers' forgetfulness cannot take effect because they do not own it. That's only Rab Shimon. And that's what he's beginning to say. Now, why did
if the workers and the owners both forgot, but the owners in the city,
there's no din of shikharol. That's another din, yeah. That's only Rab Shimon. That is only Rab Shimon.
I'm trying to just conceptualize it.
Yes, I know.
Is makel or machmer?
It's very different. It's very different.
It's like some and some.
I'll tell you. I'm going to jump ahead and come back.
Wait, he's telling him. So he's saying exactly where the location of the items forgotten.
Wait, Kevin. Before the detail, I want to answer Danny what Danny said. The big difference, after learning this a little bit, between the Rab Shimon and the Chachamim, is that Rab Shimon, the forgetfulness, like we all pointed out already, it's not about you being the owner. The fact that achedim, other people's forgetting, has significance. But so first of all, on one hand, it's not about chotzer mishtameres, chotzer sheni mishtameres, it's not about zechiyah. The forgetfulness makes it be disowned. When can that even be? When you are in the field. If you're not in the field, if you're the type of worker that you have other people mamish working for you and you are not present, you're not there to forget it or to remember it. Doesn't matter whether that's really the way we're going to find out from Rab Shimon, even though it says over here that he remembers it. It's not you're not there. There's no din shikha ever. The Chachamim negate all that. They disagree with all that. That's one big nekuda. Let's go weiter. Now, so again, even though the ratio of this statement implies that you know why it's not shikha dani, because the owner did not forget it. Really, the Bryce is just being symmetrical. In other words, we began with the case where the owner remembers it for the next case. For this case, Zosto wissen sein that Latana Rab Shimon, if the Balabas is in the city, he can forget, the owners can forget, there is no shikha. Now, at least we have words, not from the Gemara, not from the Amoraim, from the Tanoim, that there is a difference whether you are Ba'ir, whether you are Basad. And v'omar yodeya ani shahapoyalim shkeichem emarim ploini. I know they're forgetting, and they forgot, and the owner remembered, guys. And the owner remembered. What will be the din l'chachamim in our Mishnah? If the owner is there and it remembers, it can never be shikha. But what did we just learn in the Braisa? That if there are others present, the worker forgot and others forgot, even though the balabas remembered, it's vaita shikha. Harezu shikha. That's the ikar where he disagrees with the chacham. If he's there, so shaykh to have shikha. He doesn't say always you have to have both to forget. It's shaykh that even though the owner is there and he knows there is a sheep to be picked up, if the workers forgot and the awareness of others is not there, others also forgot, it will be shikha. Hareizu shikha. That's the main chiddush of the second part of the statement, even though the owner remembered. And shenemar, basada v'shachachta. By the way, the shenemar is for the first din that we just spoke out. Where does Rab Shimon take it? That if the owner is not in the field, it's not shaykh shikha. If the owner is not in the field, even though the owner forgot and the workers forgot and others forgot, it's not shikha because of the basada v'shachachta. When the owner is not basada, it's not shaykh then shikha. Again, this last statement is only the source of the first rule that we mentioned.
Rabbi,
Now, yes.
What does Rabbi Shimon come up with this? What does he have base it on? How does he? I mean, what pasuk is it based on? What reality?
The first statement, first of all, the pasuk we just mentioned, the way I understand it is that if the owner is not there, this whole type of remote that the owner is not in over there. You think when you don't come to your office, it's a whole different thing. The way I'm speaking externally, when you're there, you're owning it. When you're not there, I know you delegated it. Mr. Grace a delegator, and you have people that you rely on. It's a whole different relationship. Your presence there is when you own it. If you want to own something, you be there. If you're not even there, the whole din of shikha is not shaykh. Like I mentioned before, who is the worker to forget? Where he forgot? He doesn't own it to disown it. Who would care? A mitzat sheni, if the owner is there, then you need to have the forgetfulness of the owner and the workers, or of the worker and others. And if you have of the workers and the others, even though the balabas is aware, it's shikha. So it's a lot very nuanced. Now the chachamim disagree with it. Let's go with the way we spoke out from the Rosh, and that in the Bavli and the Yerushalmi will be aligned that even lechachamim, when the owner has to be in the field, but when the owner is in the field and the oimer is forgotten by the workers, if the owner is mindful, it won't be shikha. He doesn't care about others, even though the worker forgot, and no one else knows. And the people that drove by forgot also. No one knows. The Chachamim hold, no, it's not shikha. Why is it not shikha? As we're going to speak out, it's all because of another din. Not really. Really, it should have been shikha. But hold on. How can you stop owning it if there is a cloud that if something hefker comes into your chatzir, when you're there, even though it's a chatzir she'eina mishtameres, when you're there, you'll acquire it. It's going in the opposite direction. How can something in my field, and I'm the balabas, and I'm there, how can I stop being the owner when my presence there makes my field my hand to acquire it? That's why l'chachamim, you need to have the owner's forgetfulness. It's not about how many people forgot. No, it's something, the worker is the one who's going to forget. But you cannot have shikha when the owner is there, because he acquired, by the way, he didn't lose it and reacquire it. He's not an ani. But you cannot stop owning it when it's in your field and you're present. And Abzeda, the shame.
Can I just ask on this concept? Like, we didn't discuss this by Leket. You say also you have a chutzner and it's mishtameres and it's meaning obviously we're learning special halachas that pertain to aniyim.
Yep.
And of course this is a unique thing that if you
okay, so let me word about the Gabe. Very good. The Gabe is pointing out like this, that leket is very different than shikha. Leket doesn't mean you forgot. You are aware of everything what's happening. When you harvest, unless you work like a snail, that's the nature of the beast. There will be certain airs at time that will drop out of your hand. You see it dropping. Peah, you are actually leaving. That's different. Here, it's you are letting go of it. What's forgetfulness? You have it in your awareness. You're abandoning it in your awareness is what makes you disown it. So there's a logic to say that you're not abandoning it, even though it's not in your brain, it's on your field. Unique shikha. Leket is not shikha. Now, Rab Ze'eda b'Shem Shmuel says, Af le'inyan mitzia kain. That's where you have the link. Meaning, king and chatzit. Mitzia means, forget about shikha. If something does not belong to anyone, and it rolls into your field, And I want you to know that if it would be your backyard, you don't even have to be there. That's very important. No, the reason why the Chachamim will differentiate between field and not field, not like by Rab Shimon, it's because it's basada v'shachachta. It's a whole different thing. You have to be there. And if you're not there, not shayach shikha ever. The Chachamim, it's all about kinyan. How can you disown it when it's like when you have kinyan chatzir? Now says the Gemara, man nan kamin. Let's clarify this b'shem Shmuel. In biyochel ligabohen, you should know when it comes to the din of normal kinyan by chatzir she'enim mishtameres, it's too simple to say, are you there? Are you not there? Because actually, if my field is open, let's say an animal that's hefker runs in there. It's not about me being there or not. It's about if I were to want to actually take possession of it, and another person would want to take possession of it, who would get there first? It's about me being able to actually take it. So man nan kaiman. What are we saying? Man nan kaiman. If it's a case where the owner, if he were to actually want to take physical possession of it, he would take possession of it prior to anyone else, or in the case of an animal that's hefker that runs into the field, there's no one else chasing it. The question is, a deer ran into my field, so I'm there. Shkoyach, a deer runs quick. If I would chase it, would I be able to take possession of it before it ran out of the field by metzia? Only then I would acquire it. And oy bazoi mali b'toich ho'ir, mali b'toich sodeo, like it's tikar chasam and asay. It's not about him standing there. It should not be about him standing there. So says the Gemara that Rab Abba Bar Kahana and Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rabbi Yechanan, two things, and a chanami. You have to have him being in the field means near the field or in the field, and all right. In other words, let's read the end of the Rashirilio, 3 lines from the bottom on the left side. Even though you're right that if, let's say, a Metzia would come and run into your field, I agree that you have to be able to grab it if you want to, prior to it leaving your field. And if you cannot do it, you being betoich sodecha does not help, but you also need for you to be in your field. That afilu hacha be'in, and also ba'oimed betoich sodeyu, aside of, in the parentheses, that if you want to run after them, you'll get there. Now, don't forget, Chevra, Danny, that your oimer is not running anywhere.
Right.
Okay. But what he's trying to point out, this last line is not only concerning our sugya. This is about chatzir she'ena mishtameres. What is needed for it to acquire on your behalf? Yes, it has to be that whatever it is that's hefker, if it's a living being, you have to be able, if you want to run, you'll get it when it's in your field. But if you can do that, even if you're not in your field, you will still not acquire it. That's the rule of chatzir. When is king and chatzir acquiring on your behalf? When you're there or nearby. Like what happens if I have a field that's 5 miles big field, and I am 4 miles away, and the deer ran in, and if I were to run, I'll get it. I will not acquire it if I'm not there or right nearby.
How does this connect to us?
All what he's trying to point out beautifully, that l'chachamim, the owner's shikha, which is needed, as the Mishnah says, and let's learn when he is there for us to say that if the owner was there and he didn't forget, Danny, l'chachamim, it won't be shikha. That's because king and chatzir. L'Rab Shimon, it's a whole different parsha. If he's not there, it's not shai shikha. If he's there, I do not always need the owner shikha, because if the owner is there and the owner did not forget, but the worker forgot and others forgot, it will be shikha. Exactly how the Gemara began.
How does Rabbi Shimon hold as far as someone else acquiring a lost sheep in your property?
That Rabbi Shimon holds this is not relevant to the dinam of kinyanim, like the Gabbai pointed out. The Torah says that whenever there is shikha, belongs to the aniyim. Whenever there's leket, That's where you take your point. Like, who cares? Rab Shimon cares. The Chachamim care. The Chachamim hold that shikha is unique. You cannot disown something by forgetting it when it's on the property where. Now, another thing, guys.
So when does it work with the Chachamim?
The Chachamim, the reason why, if the owner's awareness is there, you cannot disown it by shikha. It's mitzad, this nukuda of kinyan chatzar.
But once he forgets about it,
so then we also, now, by the way, when it comes to hefkid, I don't always need to have awareness. Right. Because of your point, Danny. No, it's his awareness doesn't allow him to lose it. If he doesn't have awareness, he did not make it. He did not create the shikha, but he cannot go against the shikha. Who made shikha? The worker. Very good. And not only that, l'chachamim, from the other side, that if the worker forgot, and others, even if others forgot, the chachamim don't care about that. Rab Shimon cares about it. Rab Shimon holds that if the worker forgot and others forgot, even though the owner is aware, it's going to be shikha.
When it's all about kinyan chatzar, why does the workers have any impact on it?
Because that's why the Gemara began l'chachamim, the psukim. Now you get back to the beginning of today's daf.
Because without the psukim, you would assume just the owner.
Yes.
With the psukim, it depends on the workers.
Very good. Okay. Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, now we're moving on to the next case of the Mishnah. Daf Mem Ches Amud Beis. It's easy sailing from now. Mishnah says that if Aniyam blocked it or if Aniyam covered it with straw, so the guy didn't see it, it's not called shikha. Says the Gemara, what happens? A question. What happens if the whole field was covered with straw? You hear, Danny? The whole field was covered with straw. The owner knew it's covered with straw. The owner went and he retrieved. There's no workers here. It doesn't make it. And he retrieved from under the straw 49 of them, and he forgot the 50th. What's in the Mishnah where we say, it was covered, it's not shikha, because that one that you forgot was covered. Here, they were all covered. And nevertheless, you made the effort to go find them. And you forgot this one. So is it maybe it will be shikha, maybe not. So on that, the Gemara answers, I'll tell you the answer. That nashmi'ina min adam. I have a solution. Now we're quoting a Mishnah that we're going to have on Daf Nun Zayin. We're going to have it soon. Mishnah says, V'chein asuma sheshachach yesh l'shikha. Because if the Suma made the effort to go look for it, the way he finds things with his hands, with his ears, and he forgot when it is shikha. And therefore, here also, if it's fully covered, and the owner picks up all aside of one or two, yes, it is shikha. Now, Rabbi Yoina says, let's go back to the case of our Mishnah. He's not going to the boya where there was only one that was covered, And the Mishnah says it's not shikha. You know when it's not shikha, Danny? When he saw the straw. What happens? One was covered. And only one coveted that one. He covered it. I'm the worker. I'm the owner. I'm the worker. And I walk by it. The Mishnah says, it's not shikha, it's mine. That's if I saw the straw. Means if the straw wouldn't have been there, I would have seen the bundle. Why did I not see the bundle? Because it was hidden from me, not shikha. But if I missed the straw and the bundle, then it will be shikha. When is it not shikha? Because I saw the straw. The straw actually tricked me. If I, for whatever reason, didn't see the straw, which means if the straw would not have been there, I would not have seen the bundle either, then it is shikha. Says the Gemara, that's great. That you should know that also the Rabbi Yoina, that this statement of Rabbi Yoina here is very similar to a statement that we'll have on Daf Nun Dalid from Rab Ze'era. Come on, the Rab Ze'era Oymar, the Zoicher Esa'el Yoin, Kein Rabbi Yoina Omer, the Zoicher Esa'kashim. Let me just say, Bekitzer, we'll learn more on Daf Nun Dalid, just what we're talking about. We're speaking about Abal Abbas, that's gathering the sheaves. It's gathering the sheaves. He takes a sheep that he's gathering, and instead of putting it in the truck, for whatever reason, he put it on the row. He put it on a bundle that's in a row that he didn't yet gather any of them. So he remembered this one. He put it on top of another one. And then when he went by that row, he forgot the top one and the bottom one. And the discussion there is a machlokes tanoim whether it's shikha or not. And the similar differentiation that Rabbi Yoina makes here is going to be made by Rab Ze'era over there. that there will be a difference whether the person who walked by both the top and the bottom at least saw the top. If he saw the top, don't forget the top is not shikha, the top was taken there. But the top was covering the bottom. Then we're going to learn, according to some opinions, the bottom one is shikha. The bottom one is not shikha. Why is the bottom one not shikha? Because he didn't forget it. It was covered by the one that's already not shikha. But if he missed the top and the bottom, then both will be shikha. Same thing over here. If he missed the whole kash, then the whole thing will be shikha. Now let's move on to the final mission of this chapter. And as we spoke on in the introduction, exactly when is shikha shikha? When you are gathering it from the field to, let's call it the gadish. The gadish is a big heap. Now, by the way, some people threshed in the place of the big heap. Sometimes you moved it from the big heap to another threshing floor, but the gathering, the forgetfulness is when you are making your final gathering. Now, there are cases where you're going to gather it a few times. If you are gathering it a few times, like the Mishnah will give a couple of examples, if you forgot it by the first gathering, it's also not shikha, because this is not the final gathering. For example, Hama Amid, if you are gathering, likovois means that you want to make a straw hat, you have a lot of stuff in your field, you are making little bundles for hats. Most of the tvua you're going to use for eating. And you went and you gathered these little bundles, which I'll be using to make hats, and you forgot one. You were planning anyways to go through the field again to gather it for the ikar. So if I forgot it when I was gathering the bundles only for hat manufacturing, which is where you don't gather everything, you only gather a little bit, that's not called shikha. The word ulechumasois, the Gemara says it's some sort of wreath that people would wear under their head, like a necklace. They're making, in other words, you made little bundles and people are gathering it for the purpose of minor, secondary, and they plan from the beginning to go through everything again and to gather everything again. Lacharara means if you want to bake a biscuit. So you can also use straw as fuel. You're not going to burn up food for fuel, chabal. But if you want to make a little cookie and you only need a little bit, doesn't matter. So you made little bundles just in case you want to make little bakings. And when you were gathering it for lacharara, you forgot one. Or le'oimaram, aram is a person who makes small bundles, and they gather small bundles to later rebundle it a final time in bigger bundles, and then they take the big bundles to the heap. No, these are all scenarios where you were planning from the outset to go through the field a second time. This is not the final gathering. Says the Mishnah, Ein Shikha. But mimenu v'lagoyren, the way the Marafulda learns, if I am bundling it for hats, what happens is I have a little hat manufacturing plant on my field. When I gather the little bundles for hats, I don't use them all up for the hats. Then whatever is left over there, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to gather it from that location where I make my hats, where I make my cookies, and I'm going to take it to the big heap. That's the final movement. So, mimenu v'lagoyren, yes, le'shikha. Furthermore, hama'amar la'gadesh, when you are gathering the sheaves to the great heap, to the great stack, like we mentioned, that is the final movement of gathering. That is where you have shikha. What happens if the threshing floor is not by the great stack? What happens if you actually move it from the great stack to the threshing floor? That's not shikha. I'll tell you something. You're not gathering anymore. Moving merchandise is not gathering. We're speaking about shikha is when you are gathering the bundles. And if this is this is the final great movement. It is when you're making the final great movement, that's where yesh shikha. Which would mean, but if after you gather, you're not gathering, it's all already together. Now you simply have to move it, Danny, because you can't thresh over here. The place of the great stack is not fit for threshing, for whatever. The cows are not here. That's not called gathering. Therefore, like in the case of the Reisha, then also says the Gemara, what's koiva? Rabbi says min la'el, that which you put on top of your head. That's one reason why people would take some of the straw. They would make something in which they would cover la'el over your head. When the Mishnah says it refers min lera, something that you put under your head, something that's hidden. certain begodim that they would put under their, I would call it a type of necklace, a wreath necklace. Kamus means it's sealed with me, implying it's hidden under your neck. Lacharal is galgel. Galgel means kneading. You're kneading a bissel of a little bit. You're making a little cookies. And memtes lo'imarim, it means ravrivin. Ravrivin means actually it's the opposite. Ravrivin means big. It means that you gathered it once little, and you are still going to rebundle them into big ones. So this is not the final act of gathering. That when it says in the pasuk, like before today in the beginning of the shir, the fact that the Torah begins this pasuk by speaking about harvesting you only do once. Only do once. That's the limit. There's only one area of the gathering where it's shaya shikha, the final gathering. That ma katzir, she'ein achrav katzir, af oimer, where shikha is going to have an effect. It's only when you do the gathering, she'ein achrav oimer, hadam Allah gadish,